Hello and welcome to In the Game, Qatar's first sports podcast. Today is one of those days. It's going to be a special day. We have this wonderful young lady on the show, and she's from UK. She's in Essex at the moment, and she is going to introduce herself. But Nicola, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you. And I had somebody talking very highly of you and what you've achieved. So you know who I'm talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, so please introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Okay, so my name's Nicola. As Steve said, I'm currently living in Essex. So I've been involved with women's football for a very long time. I've also started recently getting involved with men's football. So I'm a UEFA B level coach. Used to play myself. So I played for Millwall Lionesses for a lot of years, really early days, when actually the players that I played with when I was sort of 10, 11, 12, all kind of dispersed and became, you know, the England national team from different clubs, from Arsenal and Chelsea. And that was kind of back in the day when it really was starting to grow, you know. Back then, my mum used to wash our kit. And it's funny because I've got to go drop our under-18s West Ham kit to the training ground in a minute for it to be washed. And it kind of made me think, wow, I remember back in the days when I played, you know, how far women's football's come. So I played. Then went to Arsenal Ladies Academy when I was 16. So
okay, I'm going to stop you here because I'm going to take you back even further. When did you kick that first football?
Well, when I was in school, so I grew up in South London. I'm in Essex now, I know. But when I was in school, I just used to play football with the boys. So it went on for a long time, just in the park after school. Then when I was 10, I said to my mum, I think I'd quite like to, you know, play in a match somewhere. So she did a bit of research and found Millwall Lionesses were our local team. And it just so happened that they were actually the best team in the country at the time. So when I was 10, I went along for a trial there and sort of I was there for many, many years after that.
Whoa, that must have been an incredible experience because Millwall are just fanatics when it comes to football, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. Millwall have a bit of a reputation.
You're not kidding.
From the media and for their fans, and you know, it's a part of London that is incredibly diverse.
Yep.
And I wasn't from I was from Lewisham originally, but Millwall's sort of based more around the Peckham, the Bermondsey area. And what was really interesting is when you get there and you get involved, it is just like a family, you know, and it always was.
And it's funny that I'm talking from Qatar, you're in Essex, and there's going to be a lot of people that just don't understand football to that certain degree if they're not football fans. But football in the UK is just crazy. And it's got such a family following and a kind of, it's so ingrained into our culture. But it's very difficult. Millwall is just one of those exceptional places where football is everything for everybody around those areas.
Oh, literally. I mean, it is life and death for them. They see it as a religion. They see it as their identity. And if you're kind of on the inside, you can walk down the streets in Bermondsey or Peckham and people will just wave at you if you're wearing the kit. Obviously, from the outside in, people can see Millwall as a bit, well, you're going into the Lions' Den, aren't you?
Yeah, I know. I support Bristol City. And we had another team that was Bristol Rovers. Never heard of them before in my life, but when Millwall always came to Bristol, it was an experience. Put it that way. There wasn't the die-hard fans would go to Millwall, but it was just one of those things. But you're with being a lady. What was it like when you first started? How big was it back then?
See, it's really interesting because when I first started, it wasn't anywhere near the levels it's at now. In fact, when I was playing, you know, it was still very much voluntary social. You know, my mum was, she became the social secretary for the club. You know, like parents had to volunteer. It was, I think she washed the kit every season, and that meant we didn't have to pay our subs because she washed the kit after like every game. And yeah, and that, I mean, now, as I said, it was a real moment for me earlier when I was like, wow, I'm driving. These players I've got now have got it easy. I'm taking their kit down to the training ground. It's going to be washed and turned around within a matter of hours, all clean and ready for them to play again. Whereas we, you know, it was all voluntary. It was very parent run, very parent led. There were, you know, we had coaches. We were just incredibly lucky with the coaches we had because a lot of our coaches played for the first team, and one of them in particular has gone on to do incredibly well in the men's game. As a coach educator, she works for the PFA now, and we just had a lot of people that were willing to give their time that actually were very talented as well. And it was great. It was a social life as well as a sport, and we won everything. I've got trophies from back then that were coming out of my ears. We just won everything. We had a fantastic team who have now, again, dispersed and went and had amazing careers as women's football started to evolve over the years. I think it was about 10 years ago, Fulham were the first team to become professional. And we lost a couple of our players that were playing with us to them. And even then, you look at it and we were like, wow, they're getting paid to play. They were probably only getting about £30 a game. But for them back then, that was incredible. And, now you look at the WSL now, probably the top players, probably on £100,000 a year. I mean, that's nothing in comparison with the men's at all. And it makes you feel a bit sick when you think of that. But if you look at the journey since I started to now and what the girls that I'm coaching are getting, it's completely different.
And I want to go back because you said, and you're one of those people that all of a sudden they say, what's your guest like? And I say, well, I can tell instantly. See, you're smiling now. Okay. You've got that thing in your, even though we're doing this virtually, you've got that look in your eyes and you've got that smile and you look at it and you go, that's what sport's all about. This is what it's all about. And when you started speaking just now, you said about your mum and she used to wash all the kit. How important is it for the families and the coaches that are important in the development of our kids?
Oh, massive. Absolutely massive. Parents could be the difference between a kid making it as a professional player, women or male, and a kid not. Because as coaches, we can control what goes on in our environment, but that's only like 3 or 4% of these kids' influence. What happens in the car on the way home, what happens in their home life is huge. And I can't emphasize that enough about the importance of having supportive people around you. Coaches, massive. I was talking to a girl last night, we had training, and she was asking my advice on something. And I said, the best bit of advice I ever got told by a coach, and I had many, many, many coaches, was just one tiny specific thing that changed my whole game, which was just, you don't need to run a million miles, just take one step and make an angle. But that stuck with me, and that little tiny bit from that one person, I've remembered it for years and years and years and years and years. So the influence that we can have, even if it's just one tiny little thing, can actually carry you through your life. Sport is sport, it's important, but life is more important. So if we can use sport and football as a tool to help build fantastic young humans, whether or not they make it in the pro game, whether or not they just come down and they play for fun, that's what it's all about. And that's a massive game changer for society, I feel, as well.
And Nicola, that's why you're on the show today, because that there was just fantastic, let me tell you. And I'm patting you on the back because that is just unbelievable. And that's what we need people like you, because it's the people like you that spot that talent. You give them those words of encouragement. You give that discipline now and again. And you interact with the parents. And it is so important for the development of our kids, but not also that, but it's so important to culture in itself. And it's like, good on you. That was just a great piece you just said there. Now, with your story, so what happened with you were playing football and then all of a sudden your direction changed, or what happened there?
Yeah, so I loved it. I played for Millwall for many years. When I got to about 16, it was time to kind of make big decisions in life. And back then, women's football wasn't, as I said, it wasn't as prominent anywhere near as it is now. And I remember my school teachers used to, I was relatively intelligent, but I wasn't that interested. And my mum was very, I've come from a very academic family. They've done lots of amazing things, my family, and they sort of always saw, I think, a certain route. But I was just like, not that interested. And I was like, football. And it just so happened that my mum one day went to one of the Millwall committee meetings. So again, I can only praise her. She put in hours and hours of her time going to keep this club afloat. And there was a leaflet from Arsenal Ladies Academy, and it was the first ever one. And it was like, right, you can come and you can live in St Albans at the college, you can study a BTEC whilst playing football every day. And I was like, wow, well, that's a complete no-brainer. That's what I want to do, Mum. That's what I want to do. So she put me in for the trials, and I remember going to Sheffield for a week with my friend, just training for this trial. And then I went, and I wouldn't say I was the most outstanding player. In fact, I definitely wasn't the most outstanding, but I had something about me that just pushed me through, which I think I've probably still got today. And I got in, which was good. So I played there for a couple of years. And I mean, I was playing with players, I don't know who's listening to this, but if you know women's football, like Farrah Williams, Alex Scott. Alex Scott's huge now. She's, TV presenter. She's completely revolutionised, women stepping into a man's world, so to speak, with all, everything that she's done. So we were all in the same team together. And I just kind of got towards the end of my apprenticeship there and realised I'm never going to play for England. I'm never going to kind of reach the heights of the Arsenal first team ever, but I'm a pretty good coach. And I kind of picked that up as I was going along, because whilst I was there, I got put on my coaching badge, my level 2, by one of my mentors still today. So we had a dream team of people at Millwall who have all gone on to do amazing things. He's now head of the PFA. So for example, he's like Gareth Southgate's mentor now. He put me on my badges when I was still at the Arsenal Academy, and I just made a choice. And I said, you know what? People in school said to me, my teachers were like, leave the football alone. It's never going to make you any money. And I was like, well, it is, and it has, but maybe not playing. So I just continued the coaching path, and then I worked at many girls' centre of excellence. So I started at Millwall because, again, that was where my home was, my family was. And then I got picked up by Arsenal. So I've done a few years coaching the Arsenal girls under 14s. And I think a few of them have gone on to play for England now as well. And I've just sort of done a few clubs around London within women's football at the top level, coaching in their academies. And it's sort of, it was just about being honest with myself, to be honest. I'm standing next to Alex Scott and Farrah Williams, and I'm going, I'm just not as good as you, but it doesn't mean I can't stay in the game. And I think that's one reason why I've created, obviously alongside what I do at West Ham, Breakthrough Football Academy, because it is what it says on the tin. It's about how people can break through, whether it be to be an elite player or whether it be to come and be a coach or, be a college lecturer in sport or, whatever it may be.
Honestly, just listening to it, it's just music to my ears. And I know it's going to be a music to everybody's ears, because this is what our podcast represents. It's about people making a difference. And it's like you can, and as you keep on going back to your mum and how she was such an influence in the coaches. It's like those are the people you're the people that are going to change lives, that you're going to help them change lives. And that's the good thing. And you're perfect for the show. And now that you've just taken on this new role, so tell everybody that you're what happened from where all of a sudden you've taken this role on at West Ham?
So within football, you do have to fight your way into sort of elite roles. Because especially as a female, I say that it's a bit more open for females now, but there's not that much money in full-time football roles. As much as people may think they are, coaching there isn't. So I just done a lot of things. I think one of the biggest things I did was network. So everyone I meet, I take the opportunity. I walked into football clubs. When I first moved to Essex from Lewisham, I didn't have a job. I just moved. I was like, right, I'm going, because I had my best friends here from uni, and I just fancied a change and, coming and starting a new life. And I remember I didn't have a doctor's surgery. So there was a walk-in centre opposite Leyton Orient's ground, which is about 20 minutes from where I live. So I had a cough and I went into this walk-in and they said, you got a 3-hour wait. So I just walked straight out of there while I was waiting into Leyton Orient's reception, spoke to the receptionist, said, can I speak to your CEO? He happened to be just walking down the corridor. And I look, my name's Nicola, and I literally must be quite good at reeling off everything the big things I've done in 30 seconds. I just said, I played for Arsenal, I did this. At the moment, I'm a level 2 coach, working towards my level 3. Have you got any hours? And he was like, no, but I'll take your number. And I was like, yeah, I'm really keen. I'll come and do some voluntary, whatever it is. I think 2 days later, he phoned me and he said, this is really random, but we've just had a coach pull out of an after-school club in Chingford or wherever it was. Could you do it? And I just went, yep. And I went. And then from then on, I just ended up getting 6 days a week work with them, and built that. And then you just talk to someone else, and you talk to someone else, and you go somewhere else. So, you know, that's kind of how it works in football, in community football, and to get into the elite. Again, it was just, I did the same. I was working at Millwall. I went back to Millwall a couple of years ago, and I was working as their girls RTC manager and development officer. And again, the journey, because I'm in Essex now, it was too far, and it just didn't have the magic that it had. You know, you got to know when to leave something. I went back, I think, looking for what was started there, and it wasn't there. So I thought, right, let's start again. So I left that full-time role. You know, I've got no problems doing that. I came back home, and I think about 2 years ago, and I walked straight through the West Ham doors, did the same thing. And yeah, because I'd had a recommendation off the Premier League, because I'd been chatting to people and stuff, they just took me again. I did sessional hours. Then that built up, and then someone heard about me at the club and said, oh, do you want to do a bit of stuff with our girls? So I started to do that. And then that kind of got put on the back burner for the last 2 years, because I just had so much other stuff going on, and I was trying to create my own academy at the same time, coach at the older age group. He said, and then he phoned me about 5 weeks ago, and he's like, you're the first person on my mind. This has come up. Do you want it? And I just went, yeah, snapped it up. So sometimes it's a waiting game, you know. You put yourself in someone's head, and then when something comes up, that's kind of how it works in this industry.
I give you credit. I kind of do, because I did exactly the same. Going back all these years ago, I walked into Ronnie Scott's. I was just in Soho. I walked into Ronnie Scott's. They ended up being just by cold calling. They ended up being one of my best clients ever. It was just an amazing experience. So that's another valuable lesson. What's it like now? Now that you're, so did you feel intimidated by going into West Ham? And
no, never. You know, I've been in enough football environments, and again, do you know what? I was so lucky, and I go back to those Millwall days. The team I had around me, honestly. So just to give you a view of where they all are now, one is the head of the PFA. One is a regional coach for the PFA. So I think she's one of my biggest mentors. I think she recently took Joe Cole, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for their badges, you know, those type of people. Another one is head of coaching at Charlton's men's academy now. So this was all our little team of coaches that we coached our little under 10 girls. So all of these people I grew up with, having around me and teaching me the way forward for 7-8 years, have instilled what I have in me now. And I still go back to them now and talk to them. And one of the biggest things that I felt at the time was difficult, but now I love it, was they challenged me every single day. And I used to be like, give it a break, come on. I remember one session, and I'm going to say his name. So Jim Hicks is the head of the PFA, one of my biggest influences. And I was only about 15. I was doing my work experience at Millwall Community Scheme. And he said, come on, Nicola, you're coming to a secondary school with me today. So these are just local community sessions. You know, I could walk into a school and I could bang out a 50-minute session, and it would probably be a 5 or 6 out of 10. Kids would know no different. They'd walk away happy. But Jim got us there an hour early, and I'm going, can I not go and have my sandwich? He's like, no, we're putting up 8 of these goals. Now, these goals took 20 minutes of time for me. I'm quite short to put up. And he made me put up 8 of these goals just for a school session. And he said, us taking that time to put up those goals is going to change their lives and their experience, because they now get to shoot into a proper goal rather than having cones on the floor. And, you know, stuff like that prepared me for everything now. And as I said at the time, I was like, I'm hungry. Like, why are you making me do this? But it was the best lesson I ever had, you know, working with people who were just high performance. And, you know, it almost teaches you to seek failure. I used to be scared of failure. Now I seek it a little bit. So walking into West Ham or Leyton Orient or Arsenal doesn't bother me, because what's the worst that can happen? You know, they say no.
That's such a valuable lesson. And I'm 53 years old, and that's such a valuable lesson, because you can only, all you've got to do is, I always said that you only fail when you stop trying.
Yeah.
If you give in, then you've done it. But unless you're keeping on going, you're never going to fail. Never, ever. And it's just that your spirit is testament. And it's like the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. You never know really what it's going to do for you until you need it.
Yeah. And, you know, and I can only give credit to all those people, those same people of helped me. Even now, when I hadn't seen them for a few years, I picked up a phone and I said, look, you know, I need to do this next badge. I need to do this. And, you know, Jim put me on a PFA course within months. And, you know, so these people really, really, I can only give all credit to them, because that was, I would say, if you go back to the Millwall thing, as much as Millwall gets a bad reputation from the media, when you're on the inside, loyalty is key. Loyalty and family. And once you're on the inside, these people don't forget you. You know, it doesn't matter how high flying they are, they will always, hello, Nicola, how are you? Good to hear. Oh, good, I'm glad you're doing this. And so I can only attribute everything that I've learned from them.
That's and again, you know, I mean, Qatar, it's kind of, that's the one thing I love about Qatar, is that you've got to build credibility. It doesn't matter what you came from, who you were before. It's what you're doing here is gonna be the way that people judge you. Yep. And it's right. You've got to put those hours in. You've got to put that effort. Did you ever think to yourself that you would be in the position you are now?
Do you know what? I always hoped. So I always had a vision. When I left Arsenal Ladies Academy, as I said, when the reality hit that I wasn't good enough, because I wasn't, I just wasn't. I was like, right. And I remember saying to my coach, one day I'm going to be like you and coach at this academy or an academy similar. So I always had that vision. Don't get me wrong. It has been an incredibly tough journey, because I've quit jobs. I've walked out of jobs, because the thing is, for me, I saw a great quote actually that actually sums me up. It's, there's no point of having passion without purpose, or purpose without passion. And I definitely didn't have that. Like, I've had jobs where honestly you'd think I was the worst employee in the world. I've gone in and I'm like, nah, it's not for me. And I've got no problems with walking if I have to, because I value my hours of my life and I value where I want to get to. So there is that kind of flip side of this character, which is you can be in a situation where you put yourself in a little bit of shtup, because you go, oh, okay, well, I've just walked out of this, I've got to find something else. But, you know, I always knew in my gut I was looking for something and waiting for something. And look, it's only been 5 weeks, but I do feel like it's absolutely where I'm meant to be. And I for the first time, I'm probably saying, look, I look forward to a long, happy and successful career in this same role, you know, developing it. Who knows, maybe it will turn full time. That's what I hope. So my hope would be in a few years, I'm, you know, at the training ground every day, full time. I've kind of had to make changes to make this fit in with my life, because again, you know, the money within women's football isn't huge. So I'm working in a college lecturing BTEC sport as well, a couple of days a week, just to kind of make ends meet still. But, you know, hopefully as women's football develops and more money comes in for the coaching staff as well as the players, this can turn into a full-time role in a few years. And so, yeah, I've always believed it to an extent, always.
So do you think you're going to give in? Do you think you'll kind of walk away from it?
Nah, no, I don't see that happening. And you listen, you know what, you never know. You never know what can happen. You know, as a passionate person, if things change quickly, and you know, this is one thing that I learned on my UEFA B is about what are your negotiables and what are your non-negotiables. And sometimes you've got to change some of your non-negotiables. And I would say in the last year of my life, I've got better at that, changing some of the non-negotiables. So that's why I can safely say I don't see anything changing. But if someone was to come in above me and completely change the philosophy of the club, of how they wanted things run, then if it does touch on that non-negotiable, then yeah, of course, you know, you've got to stick with what you believe in and what's right for you. But it doesn't seem that way at the moment, so hopefully not.
You're a breath of fresh air, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, how many people told you, and I'm sorry to go back over this, but it's really important for me anyway. How many people told you to pack it all up? Don't bother, leave it, Nicola. Just go and do something else. Get a proper job.
Do you know what? To be fair, I've got amazing people around me. I've got fantastic friends who support me in everything that I do. My family have always supported me. They've never said pack it in. They love football anyway, so they've never ever. It was probably only that one primary school teacher, Mrs. Robbins, year 6. I remember. It's funny, and I say that for a reason, because kids these days, you have to know what you say to people, they remember. So you either use it as a driving force or you let it floor you. You know, And she was probably the only one that's ever said to me, pack it in. I've been incredibly lucky. If anything, people have only been, admiring of a female trying to make her way in a sort of, I'm doing inverted commas for people that can't see, but, a man's world. So I definitely wouldn't say I've had to come up against much issues like that. I know others have, but I've been lucky.
And what's your team looking like now? What's the under 18s West Ham looking like now?
Yeah, we're looking good. We had our first game on Sunday, so we just had a pre-season friendly. We won 10-0. We beat Leyton Orient 10-0. So that was after. I mean, I only met the girls 4 weeks ago now. So I think the biggest thing that we're trying to instill again, and this is what's huge, is I'm not kind of overkilling it on the tactical and technical. It's all about up here. It's all about your mind. So we're really trying to create a family and a team of girls who will give everything for each other. So I've said to the girls, you know what, I don't care if we get smashed every single week, as long as you try to do the right things and you support each other. And I think in the long run, again, that's going to make, I hope, good, disciplined, happy, well-rounded humans, as well as potentially people that can step into any environment. Resilience is the key. And so at the moment, things are looking good. Like the girls last night, a couple of them stayed behind and done extra running, because we keep saying it's the 2% you do when you're not with us. It's the 2%, it's the 2%. And for me, that was a huge win. Seeing these girls who are, they're 16, 17-year-old girls going through lots of stuff in their life in a world where mobile phones are at the forefront of everything. And, there's so much is going on. And they've stayed behind and they're just running up and down the pitch. I saw them as I was driving off, so far I would say we're moving in the direction that we'd like to be moving. And I'm really looking forward to sort of keep going with these girls.
And I want to ask another question is, did your mum come to all your games?
When I was a kid, she had to drive me there. God bless her. It was freezing. I just remember one game as well. I hit her on the head with a ball. And it was so cold. They take the parents again. They take it, and I mean, it's really difficult at the moment for because of obviously the pandemic. And
of course, yeah.
Parents aren't, and we're not allowed to kind of mix with parents. And I do think that a massive role for us is to liaise and communicate with parents, because without them, these girls aren't going to be able to get where they are. And we do have girls within. I'm not going to particularly say my team now, because I will want to touch on that. But I've had, worked with girls in the past that haven't got that parental support, and they've had to get on trains and buses and get themselves to cold, windy training sessions in the knee-deep mud. So, don't underestimate how important it is to have supportive people around you to come and watch every game.
Oh, honestly, and I get, again, your music to my ears. And at the beginning of every show, I say, we've got a special guest on the show today. You are, without exception, one of those. And I'm so glad that you've come on the show today, because everything you're saying, there's going to be so many people out there that can empathize, that can appreciate those coaches and the parents that kind of went free. And again, I'm in Qatar. So when we say the ground is solid and you're going and it's freezing, and oh my God, to turn your kids out to play football and sport, it's not easy, right?
100%. Oh my God. And it takes over. And that's, again, I've started my own thing, which is Breakthrough Academy. And a lot of what we want to do is help and educate those parents about what a big commitment it is for their kids to go on this football journey. Because, everyone goes, right, I want my son and my daughter to play for whoever, and they're going to get me a car and they're going to get me a this and that. But the nitty gritty that comes in between that, having to pay subs if you're a female, if you're male, not so much. The thing that it takes up a weekend. So a good example, when I coached at the boys Performance Academy at West Ham, I think we won every game up till October. So we got put in an elite league. Now the elite league meant that it wasn't local anymore. So we had something like 4 or 5 games in Devon. So I went back to the academy manager and I said, before we accept our place, we need to talk to the parents, because some of them have got other kids, jobs, to drive, to put, some might not be able to afford 50 quid in their tank up there every week. So that has to come first and foremost above anything else, because in at sport at this level, you don't get the nice minibuses or the coaches or they very rarely pay expenses for anyone. So, what I wanted to do with Breakthrough is really give the kids and the parents a reality check of what actually goes into this. And what could happen is this parent could spend 10, 15 years from under 8 up to, well, maybe not that, 5, 6 years up to when the kids are 18, every single week training 3-4 times a week in the cold, the rain, no tea hut, Sunday mornings, Saturday mornings, petrol in cars all around the country. And this kid could get up to the under 18s and they could get called in one morning and get told you're being released. And then they've got nothing. They've got nothing behind them. So what we want to do at Breakthrough is I've got like therapists involved. I've got all of the mindset stuff involved to prepare these kids for the resilience that if they are going to try to kind of get into an academy or have a shot, they need to understand the chances are very, very, very slim. And the parents need to understand that as well, and the commitment. And, I'm hoping that we might get 1 or 2 that kind of take that, and it gives them that extra 1 or 2% to be able to make it. Because, if you're real and you've got a real person telling you, no, it ain't pretty. It's like when people say they work in TV. A friend of mine she was on Big Brother for years, and I was like, is it amazing? She went, mate, I had to clean up Jedward's vomit when they projectile vomited after a task. She said, people don't see that, and it's the same with football. So Breakthrough is really something I want to get out there to help and mentor young people through this grassroots to elite process.
And how do they, with this, especially with this one, how do they get in contact with you if they want to participate, if they want to kind of, because I know that it's not easy to run these things. You sometimes you're looking for sponsorship, you're looking for things to advertising to go on the shirts. Can people get involved with you on this?
Oh, absolutely. What we really need at the moment is we need to get a venue. So I started off and I had a good relationship with the school that I was in, and it was quite far away from where I was. So I would say like West Ham helped me to build up a lot of kids, and we were doing really well. And I've now moved everything closer to home. So I'm currently in Chigwell looking to get a venue. We need some revenue to pay for venues and just to kind of get things going in a new area. We've got a website, so I've got a website which I can give you the link to, and if for everyone listening, it's www.breakthroughfootballacademy.co.uk. So they can directly speak to me on there and get my number and chat to me. And it's just about really now, I'm in a cold area for it now. So finding a venue, finding a home, and getting the kids to kind of know that we're here, really. So
hey, listen, everyone, there's somebody out there that's going to want to help Nicola. Nicola, I hope you get the support, and please give her a hand. This is something that she wants to do to change others' lives. It's not her life she wants to change. It's the best she wants to improve other people's lives and make a difference. And I'm hoping that somebody's going to pick this up and get in contact with you. Honestly, you're doing a tremendous, absolutely tremendous job. It's like, and what's the future? What do you hope for the future? Have you got any hopes, or do you just take it day by day?
Do you know what? That's quite a good question, because I feel like since lockdown, I've always been someone who values life anyway. So I've always, and again, I touched on it earlier, and I said employers, or the way that the world used to work, might look on people who just go, I'm done, as something negative, and it can be, especially for them when they have to find a replacement. But for me, it was always about finding that moment, and lockdown especially has pushed me to say, you need to go with your gut and take it from there. So my gut was, as soon as I got this phone call from the guy at West Ham to say the under 18s, my gut just went yes. And that was the kind of future I was looking at. So I think now I'm all right. I've dealt with a lot of things I need to deal with. I'm in a place, I've taken a bit of a risk with certain things to go with this. As I said, it's not the most amount of money in the world, but I think it's about enjoying it now. The future could hopefully be for this to continue and turn into a full-time role, for Breakthrough Football Academy to give lots of young kids the opportunities I had. Football has given me a roof over my head. It's given me a car. It's given me a happy life. I can go on holiday whenever I want to go on holiday. It's about a work-life balance. So as we speak right now, I think I've just got to that next point in the ladder that I've probably been striving for a few years. And we take each day as it comes, and we just sort of go with it and see if this can evolve and develop, and just have a bit of faith. I think the future is trusting your gut and having a little bit of faith that everything that's happened up until this point has happened for a reason, and you're here now, and you just continue to be you and learn along the way, and just see what happens.
Nicola, let me start by saying you are amazing. Your mum is amazing. Your mentors are amazing. Your team is amazing. And I'll go back to you again. You are amazing. You give everybody hope. The messages you've given out there today are just incredible. And I'm privileged that you came on the show. And again, with me, I don't want to be blasé, because everybody's got a story. And the stories that people's got are just amazing. You are incredible. Everybody, anybody that can help Nicola, please just get in contact with us. Say that website again, please. So
the website is www.breakthroughfootballacademy.co.uk, and we're on Instagram as well. So we're on Breakthrough FA. We're on Facebook, Breakthrough Football Academy, and we're going to shortly have some YouTube channels. And we've been starting to record podcasts with Be Scouted as well. So I know you spoke with Kian from Be Scouted.
Great.
So we've started doing a few podcasts just for those parents. Like what I said about, we've been interviewing academy coaches and mentors, just so people can see what the real journey is. And that will be coming out shortly as well on a YouTube channel.
Unbelievable. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Did you think that it was going to go so quickly?
No, to be honest, it was the first. I'm usually the one asking the questions. So I was a little bit like, wow, what am I going to talk about? Because there is so much, but it absolutely flew, and I really enjoyed our conversation. So thank you so much for having me.
You enjoyed it. That's the most thing.
Absolutely.
I know 100% our guests, our listeners are going to enjoy it. And I do really thank you from the bottom of my heart coming on, because it's a tremendous story. I wish you all the best. And I hope you come back on when you are a legend, because you, young lady, are going to be somebody. You already are, but you're going to be somebody special. Let me tell you, I see people like you. You're flipping fantastic. Everybody, thank you so much for listening today. This lady is incredible. Hope you enjoyed the story. Until next week, see you for now. Everybody, thank you very much for listening. And Nicola, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much indeed.